So the idea of ArtPod is that it is an art experience that's accessible to a larger audience. So it's not just for people in the art world, but it is exhibitions and artworks that are attractive and fun and engaging. And that's pretty much how things started. We wanted to make the art experience accessible. So people would just look at the sculptures or the videos or the paintings and immediately want to come in and discover more. It was more, the idea is not to explain the art, but it is for, with these Reisebegleiter in German, so it's people who are travel guides. It's somebody who's not coming from the art world. They might be an actor, they might be a retired social worker, might be a doctor, somebody who is not necessarily coming from an art background, but has their perspective on explaining or just talking about art and having a dialogue. And so that was the idea, to have people in the exhibitions that would engage with the people. So it was all about engagement, in that you come into an exhibition and you're not just looking at something, you want a little bit more because you're curious, and we want to play with that idea of curiosity. And so with the exhibition at the Staatsgalerie Stuttgart, it's called Play. In a very traditional museum, what we're doing is we're trying to introduce a different kind of environment where people, guests, visitors want to come in, and they will just, for example, when they first come in, there are plasticine balls by Leni Hoffmann.
It was actually people from the museum throwing them in. She made a concept of those plasticine ball being thrown in by people in the museum. It had to be one person from the museum, one person from outside the museum, and one person from the cleaning crew of the museum, to throw randomly those balls into the actual exhibition space. Now, those balls were made by her and her children. They were making those plasticine balls whilst they traveled to the museum in the train. So during the train ride, so these plasticine balls are also sort of a container of time and experience, and now they are in a museum, and they might transform again if people step on them or not. It's the people's decision. Do have to step on them, but they leave traces then as well.
And they make a smear. They kind of melt down, or they smush down into the mixing of color. There is a piece by Ben Ner, who's an Israeli artist who is very well known in Israel and internationally, and what he's done, we have a tent, and it's like kind of like a kid's tent that you can crawl into and watch this video. And the video is Moby Dick, and it's a video that he'd made quite a while ago in 2000 with his children. He recreated the story of Moby Dick in his own kitchen
with his daughter.
And so they're on the high seas and they're on the boat, and they'll be eating a meal, and things will slide back and forth. So it's just this wonderful creativity that he's done in his own practice, in his own kitchen. And so what we thought is when we first showed this piece, people loved just sitting there and watching the whole video. So we thought, okay, let's create an environment, a little setting that people could feel they could go into and enter into his world. So we have this sort of makeshift tent, which is quite wonderful. Then we have Dustin Schenk of Color Cubes has made this huge mural
from Kassel.
So the whole thing is, it's a virus monster. It's the COVID, during COVID, it was the monster virus. And so it's this huge rainbow monster, but then there's little COVID viruses all over the place that he's done hundreds of them. And the idea is that there is erasers available that you can erase, as we all want to do, is get rid of the virus. So we're just having very timely in terms of, making an action that would be very satisfying for everyone to go in there and erase the virus. Then we have
Katharina Lackner has a table there, and something which maybe not important, like notepads, but they are like stenciled in the shape of little birds. And she has pencils there, and you're allowed to take one of those notepad birds or many and write your thoughts on it and stick them onto the wall, onto the white museum wall in the gallery. So what happens here is there'll be a notepad installation growing all over. We didn't make any restrictions where they put the notepads, so this could turn out somewhere else in the gallery as well. And then you can also, when you visit again, you can read other people's comments in the actual exhibition. So it's like a feedback work, which will grow over time when people use it. And will change again a little bit the exhibition.
I mean, that one as well is very timely. And the
Right.
one comment that was one of the first ones that was written, which was wonderful, is
beautiful.
Corona is
Scheiße. It's ein Scheiß, and Scheiß was written wrong. It was by a child, obviously. Child wrote like Corona is ein Scheiß. So I like that. So it's an outlet as well for your immediate feelings maybe or something. And now, because you do it in a museum, it's there for other people to see as well.
Yes.
So it's not just something you do outside somewhere and random people see it. No, the next people who come will see that.
And another piece that's also interactive is Courtney Childress, who is based in Brooklyn, and she has a carpet that in front of it are these giant rocks of melted crayons. So it's these layers of crayons, which are amazing, and there are these chunks, and you can take the crayons and you can draw onto the carpet.
Well, this is a lot of those works are coming from different sites. For example, her crayons are beautiful sculptures.
Yes.
These are melted, colorful, amazing sculptures, which she hangs from a little chain in front of a white carpet on the wall. And now people are allowed to use those rocks, those sculptures, those objects actually, to make drawings with it. So there's an interaction between a free composition which happens there, almost like graffiti, but with those drawings, and still the rocks are in front of it as a source, and the rocks change in shape over time, and the painting changes
and then
in
it'll
shape
just
over
become
time.
incredibly filled with all
Right.
the markings.
Yeah.
So what we like the idea is that people are leaving their markings, they're leaving
Right.
their comments, they're leaving a part of them. So the art experience becomes this full circle that as a visitor you're participating in the experience. If it's just sort of thinking through what the experience is, or you're physically doing something.
Matthias Garff has, out of trash metal, you could say, built like birds and other animals, which are built from like found objects and stuff. That's a very playful work, which has playful inside itself, but not really as a touchable thing. Well, Frederik, so he has, the Chinese work is at the entrance of our show, is a huge blow-up lion, one of those lions from China, which would guard a temple. And this lion, he made him as a blow up, really big sculpture, and they are blown up by air.
They're inflatables.
And then they inflate and then they deflate again during the day. So those guarding lions become like proud lions for a while, but then you see them again like sort of melting down again. So he does that as sort of a also quite humorous but interesting idea of playing with sculpture, volume, and of course also content. And then he has another work which is interactive. You'll see a Porsche car. Porsche is where Stuttgart is where Porsche lives. Porsche had been invented in Stuttgart. Porsche company is in Stuttgart, and he has a model die-cast Porsche on a string connected to a drill, and you're allowed to pull the trigger of the drill, and then the Porsche tumbles over like in a bad accident constantly, which is of course also humorous work. I mean, first of all, it's a precious car and it's loved, and the 911 is an artwork in itself, but here he shows an accident and you're triggering the accident. So what's happening after that?
And then we have the artist Maxine Liu, who
that's
is from Taiwan. He has created these gnomes, or Zwerge, which started with a project in New Paltz of practicing and observing how Americans are not taking care of the public space. Like, they're very interested in taking care and cleaning up of their private space, but then there's litter around. So she started this action of cleaning up with one or two of these little gnomes in the streets and taking them out and kind of making a public statement. And so they've been doing their litter collection in New Paltz, in different spaces or places, as an environmental practice. And so they are eco-travelers, in that now they've traveled to Germany to continue their tour of cleaning up.
Her work dips into so many other cultural aspects in Germany.
Okay.
Now, Zwerge are very specific in Germany. They've been good ghosts, if you want. People, they help you. They are in every garden.
They're little
like
workers.
A traditional garden in Germany would be squeaky clean, and there would be a little Zwerg in it who does little worker bees. But she uses it to actually point out the problem of us really not caring for our environment, and even that Zwerge themselves are made out of recycled material.
Yes.
That's the next thing as well. So they are all made of paper mache, paper pulp, which she collected from trash, and then they collect trash. So he makes little sceneries. And that's another tradition in Europe, that you have sceneries around nativity scenes and stuff where you stage things in a certain way. That's another thing of ArtPod. We love to collect perceptions of art. We love to trigger perceptions of art. And we think that the diversity of perception of art is what keeps art alive. And if you come to the show Play in Stuttgart, and you come with a few questions maybe you have on your head, and you leave with even more questions or different questions, then we did a good job.
Jennifer Dalton has labels, and what they are is like, hello, my name is. And they're on these dispensers that you can pull the labels down.
Stickers have something on them in writing which can trigger a story or can be a start of a communication. So this could be moods, it could be all sorts of things, but when you put the sticker on you, and we know this is a mechanism we have in museums often these days. You get a sticker in the Whitney, or you get a sticker at an event, so you show that you're at the event. So she uses this mechanism of bureaucracy and administration to actually then make a sticker which makes other people ask about and maybe create a story. So it's actually a communication enhancer, I would say.
Then there is an artist named Stephan Saffer who has a large
great work
mobile, and what you can do is you can throw ping pong balls at the artwork, which is always a thrill.
I do mobiles because I'm fascinated with the idea that a mobile is always a system which is curated or planned or it has a certain composition, but it also is loose because it can move and change its composition over time. But still, I intend a certain composition. That's what I did there too. I have a mobile which has different size shapes. They are flat and they're hanging there. They're painted. They have a certain color composition. So they create for me a certain sort of picture. Now the picture changes when you take a ping pong ball and throw them right onto the middle of those discs, because what you experience then is each disc is not just a painting, it is also a drum. So it makes a drum sound. It makes a sound which is in the air for a moment. And the second thing happening is the mobile starts to move. And the third thing happening is the ping pong ball spreads into the exhibition space and you have to get it again. So you will run around in the exhibition space getting those balls again back, whilst you also play this sort of crazy random music instrument in a way. And it itself moves and creates again a composition at the end of the movement, which is quite a classic formal composition.
The other artist is Bjorn Heyn, who has created this wonderful paintings that playful paintings that what you have to do to view them is you have to lie on the ground underneath them, and there's a swing. The painting swings above you, so it's really making you have a whole different perspective on looking at the artwork. And then he has another artwork that is hung extremely high. So it's all about how are you viewing, how are you moving through the space. So there's nothing really traditional about the exhibition.
Bjorn's work dips a lot into childhood memories and perspectives maybe you had as a child who was not lying under the swing, watching their siblings swing over them or something. Children do that. Or they climb into a tree to have a different perspective. We all know if we take a little step besides us and have a new perspective, this can open up so much more possibilities. And he plays with this in his compositions, in his paintings, and with those two swing paintings as well.
And then there's Ann Anders, who is a video artist. And so what she's done is there's a large projection, and it's called Intruders. And so it is a blank space, and then there are people crawling into the space. So it's all about this with a lot of immigration and people, the foreigners coming in, trying to get in, trying to sneak in at different corners, and then they kind of jump back. And so it's playing a lot with these social political issues that are being dealing with in
but again in a
Europe.
playful way. It's not like it's kind of like, oh, you're bad and this is bad. It's more like in a playful way, which makes you think, because you don't understand immediately the perspective you see.
Igil's work is a video projection that also has a real component to it. So it's these two ping pong balls that are almost alive, and then you have these two buckets and real buckets that are in front of the projection. So the two ping pong balls are dancing, and it's a ping pong ball dance, and they're having fun and playing and doing little games. And most of his work is he's playing with the projection and a real physical element, and they're all very playful, and they have a little musical component, and he's just a wonderful artist that I've known for a very long time. Frank Matter's documentary film that he directed on Klaus Lutz, who is a Swiss-born artist who lived in New York City, and he did these amazing black and white films that he created, all of them in his one-bedroom apartment in the East Village. And he created sort of a whole, he was like an experimental filmmaker from like the 1920s, and he created these allegorical, loaded short films, and they were about his adventures. And he used all these different props in his space and different sets that he created in low-tech methods that achieved the effects of being hectic but also dreamlike and just sort of bringing you to another space. And then he would project his films onto these amazing white balloons, these weather balloons, and they would be filmed with 16 millimeter film. So they were all films. And Frank Matter has done a documentary film that is called The Beauty of My Island, and that is what we're projecting in the exhibition. Things that is very special about this exhibition is I love when I'm curating a show to mix it up with very known artists, with very unknown artists or emerging artists, people from all different countries. It's really more about the artwork than the actual who they are, whatever their career is. And so one of the artworks that we have is an Olafur Eliasson work, which is a wooden log. And
it's a
tree trunk that has traveled, it's a driftwood that has traveled in the water and ended up on the streets of Berlin, and then it was collected. And so people are like, what is this? And you can actually walk on this piece. And when we've showed it before, it was about doing a balancing act. And it's all about this history of the work of the object and how it's traveled from one location to another location and the life of the wooden log.
Stephanie Pellot, the last work we list here, but it's a work which is outside the gallery. She presents a work which is a chewing gum dispenser, and you get a capsule out. Like every child loves it, or grown-ups, you go, it's a nostalgic thing to do. You get a capsule out. Now what's the artwork? In this case, the capsule does contain nothing but glitter pigment. It's beautiful glitter pigment, which if you open the capsule, will spread. It will spread everywhere. So you will leave marks or not. I want to say one more thing about the show and play, which is, I think, important. We are opening up again, or we are parallel to a brand new Joseph Beuys exhibition in this museum. This museum has amazing collections, and one of them is Joseph Beuys. Now, Joseph Beuys is one of the reasons, for me at least, why I do this shows or I'm involved in those shows like Play or something like that. He was the first artist I know, maybe the only one so far I know, who said, I'm not exhibiting my work in a museum, I'm just storing them. Because the minute I'm not with it, that's it, I'm just storing them. And the whole cult around him, he was always kind of skeptic about, and he was so much about the social sculpture. And I'm so proud.
It's perfect that we're
We
together.
didn't know that, actually.
No, but it is perfect.
It happened.
It's going to create a mood in the museum.
And we love that,
for people
because
to interact.
without him, for example, a lot of works we have in this exhibition would maybe not work like that.
Or they take on a different
And they
context.
take on a different context. So we're parallel to the Joseph Beuys exhibition, which of course is highly preserved and everything. But in a way, Joseph Beuys started the Green Party in Germany. He did so many more other things, and he really wanted to make a change with his works. And they dipped into like being used as well. Think of the Thousand Oaks project in Kassel, where sculptures became real oaks. Amazing, amazing. We love being in this context, and we are so thankful, I think, to the Museum of Stuttgart to take this risk to do a show like we are doing. ArtPod would not happen without many, many people helping. It's not just two people. It's not just Laurie, Chiara, and Stephan Saffer. No, we had help from everybody. First of all, we like to thank the Staatsgalerie Stuttgart for allowing us to do the show there and hosting our exhibition. And I'd like to thank the team there. We dealt with, first of all, Helga Huskamp, then Tom Gabriel and Larissa Besler. Without them, we could have done nothing on site. I'd like to thank our exhibition crew who built up all the show. Thomas Moll from Berlin, Dustin Schenk from Kassel, Bjorn Heyn from Berlin. And we, of course, would like to thank all the artists who were amazing in like sending works on time in difficult circumstances, with COVID, with delayed mail, all sorts of things. It was amazing that we pulled this off. We hope that everybody enjoys this show, and we want to see more of them, and we'll continue working. Thank you very much.